Hello and welcome back to the garden. And yes, it's sunny. The sun does shine in Northumberland and it's not raining. We have 5 days in a row where we are going to have dry, sunny, mild weather, and I'm really looking forward to it. And this is day 2 of it now, and I'm fleeing around like a crazy woman trying to plant all of the plants that I've had ready waiting for quite a few months now. So far behind, so I'm trying to catch up in the next couple of days. The rain's due to return next week and cooler weathers too. We're now hitting, I think it's on about the high 60s, which is quite warm for this time of year for us here in Northumberland. But the plants are loving it and they're just putting on so much growth. I'm adding in this section of the white border some Lilium Regale bulbs. Now I started these off in small pots back in, I think it was late autumn, mainly because the ground has been so wet, have been able to work in these borders until now. So I've got quite a few of these to add. So these Lilium Regale grow to, I would say about 4 up to 5 feet if they love the conditions. Lovely big white trumpet flowers, and they have an incredible smell. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't mind it. And I like them to grow here in amongst all of the Baltic parsley and the milk parsley, because when the flowers are finished and you've just got the base stem left, it's actually hidden by the other plants that are growing around it. Now this big blank space came about because I dug out a climbing rose, which I think was actually a rambler. I bought it at the bargain bin that you buy things at in the garden centre, where you don't really know what you're buying. It said it was a climbing rose, but I'm pretty convinced it was a rambler, and it didn't do very well. So it came out last August. Last autumn, I took it out. And intertwined amongst all of the roots was an Achillea, and this is it. This is Achillea ptarmica Ballerina. And unlike your other Achilleas, which have a different type of leaf, they have more of a ferny, greyish, bluish type leaf. This one is very dark grey. There's quite a few of them in the ptarmica range. And it does really well in my moist soil. It does seem to prefer the wetter climate that I've got here than the other Achilleas, which I've now unfortunately had to give up growing. Grew these, as I said, here last year. They did really well. They have tall, slender flower spikes with tiny button type flowers on the top, double white flowers, and that's why I like it. If you have it in a mass like I did last year, and I'll put a clip on the screen now of what it looked like in the border when it was growing last year. But if you grow it in a big group, and they do grow quite big clumps, it puts on a better show. I think individually in small clumps it wouldn't look as good, but when you have it en masse, it does look really good. So I'm going to plant them back in here where they came from, and I'm also going to add some to the other border on the other side. So that's those two in the middle of here. Now let me take you to the next spot where I'm going to add some plants. So still in the white garden. Borders next to the steps, and I'm adding Eupatorium, commonly known as the Joe Pye weed, but this is a white variety. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, so I'll put it on the screen now. But I've dug these clumps, and you can see I've dug these clumps out from one of the other borders in the white garden. I've got several of them. In this small border, really did struggle this year. I've lost hostas, believe it or not. Hostas have not returned because of this area flooding so much. I'm putting these at the back because they are plants that need to be at the back of the border, and anyhow because they'll grow 3-4 feet in height. This is a particularly late flowering variety, I do remember that. So hence why I'm going to put it here at the back where it doesn't flood as much. At the front where I had all of the hostas, I'm not quite sure what to add there yet. I'm still experimenting with this white garden, and this is the 4th summer that I've had it now. I'm still trying to find plants that will cope with the conditions that I've got. But Joe Pye weed, as it's commonly known, they do like moist soil. I've grown them elsewhere. So I'm going to add these clumps here. And I think hopefully they should do really well. And you can see the soil even now is still, after several days of dry weather, it's still really, really claggy and wet. But I'm hoping these will cope with it. So let me show you around the other plants I've got here in the White Garden before we go down to add some plants in the Bog Garden. The geraniums that I planted, I think it would be about 3 or 4 weeks ago now. Maybe it's not even that. They've just grown huge with all the wet weather. At the back here you have the phlox David at the back. And then in here you have all of the milk parsley, Baltic parsley, foxgloves. Then on the other side of the path, star of the show this early May is the Perennials. This is the post-fed white Perennial, just starting to come into flower in the last couple of days. Really lucky this year that they've self-seeded around everywhere. Still picking them out with the paths. I do allow some just to stay in the paths. It softens the path. Seeded into pots. Pots of tulips. Can't grow tulips in the ground here because it's too wet, so I grow them in pots, and they've all just started to flower in the sun in the last couple of days. This one's my favourite. This one's called Honeymoon. It has a lovely frilled edge. Really love that one. I'll grow that one again. And then in this pot here you have more self-seeded Perennials. Couldn't have planned that better if I tried. Couldn't have potted that better if I tried. There's about 20 or 30 of them in there. They're just going to look stunning in a couple of days. Got the big leafed Rogersias. Gone from the ground to this size in 10 days. Huge. Love this wet weather. Then behind you've got the viburnums just starting to flower. Let me just go in a little bit closer and show you the makeup of the flowers. So I will video these viburnum maricinae when they're in full flower, but I just wanted to show you the actual construction of the flowers along the branch. It's just so clever how it actually forms the flowers, and they all just stand up. Looking forward to how these bloom in a couple of weeks' time. So down here now in the very bottom of the Quarry garden, in the Bog Garden. Haven't been here since I planted the Ligularias 2 weeks ago now, over 2 weeks ago, and you can actually see they've taken really well. Up until this point it's rained a lot, and that's what they love. But one thing I didn't mention the last time, if you're digging in a lot of clay soil, what I do is add a lot of horticultural grit. It stops the binding of the clay once you get into the summer months. So I use this quite a lot down here. And I'm trying to turn over a section, plant it, and then I don't walk on it or touch it again. Because that's one of the worst things you can do in clay soil. Stand on it when it's really claggy and wet, which it always is in a bog garden, because it'll just ruin the structure of the soil. So I'll just turn all that in. Must admit, I'm not enjoying planting up this bog garden at all. I'm finding it really tough going. The ground is dreadful. Anyhow, today I'm going to add Persicaria, and these came from elsewhere in the garden. Again, I'm trying to do this on a budget, using what I've got, using combinations that I've used before. So this is Persicaria Firetail, and Persicarias do really well in clay soil, so that's a plus. Hopefully it'll thrive here. The Ligularia seem to be doing well, and they've been in a couple of weeks now. So this particular variety, Firetail, has lovely, long, tall, slender flower spikes in the summer. Crimson red bottle brush flowers, particularly pretty. Last for several months, the flowers, hence that's why I like it here. Yes, it's a tall perennial. It grows anything up to 1.2 metres, around about 3 to 4 feet, if it likes the conditions. Similarly in spread. tall against the path. The reason why I'm going down that route, I'm trying to separate the bog garden planting and the path through the bog garden from the path that goes around all of this quarry garden area. I want it to feel a little bit enclosed when you're in the middle of the bog garden. So I'm trying to use taller perennials on the outside. Anyhow, that's the way that I'm trying to plant it up for now. Whether that'll change in the future, who knows? All depends how well plants adapt to these conditions. Never planted a bog garden before, never dealt with such conditions as this. So this is pretty new to me. So while I add these Persicaria, why don't I give you a tour of the woodland and all of the bluebells that are flowering just down the path there. And then you can come back and see what this looks like at the end. So that's the Persicaria planted in the front of the ligularias, and I think we'll do well there. But I've come to realise in the last few days that it's going to take me a couple of years to plant up this huge bog garden. It's not something that I'm going to be able to do in the next year, that's for sure. But if you want to stay around to see the end of it in the next year or two, you're more than welcome. So thank you very much to anyone who was newly subscribed and to all those that keep coming back to watch. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.